Welcome to my violinrecital.com. This is Diane Allen, the website's creator. We're going to take everything that we've talked about, fingerboard geography, and put it into some direct applicable use. Once again, you'll be able to download a blank fingerboard like the one you're seeing now from the blog. So in Witch's Dance, between measures 25 and 31, I typically have students fill out all of the notes that you'll have in those measures. And they'll plot them here on the fingerboard, and you'll see we got some pretty strange notes here. We have F sharp and B flat in the same measure, I believe, and C and C sharp. There's lots of stuff going on. So after they fill out all of the notes, the next step that I'll do is I'll have them play the music, but I'll point from here, dun da 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 dum bum, something like that. Obviously we will do much slower, but I'm just giving you an example here. So that's just a great way to untangle all of these notes. Like I said before, it's very strange to see a flat and a sharp in the same measure. The other strange thing about this, there's one part in the music where you have to go from this C natural to this B flat. And that's really hard to wrap your head around. How do you find that? And so what I like students to see is, well, C to D is a whole step and D to A are straight across from each other. So you could think of as C to A as a whole step, and then A to B flat is a half step, and it becomes a way to map out how to think your way from the C to the B flat, and also how to finger your way to get the C and the A and the B flat fingers all down. Once again, a picture's worth 1,000 words, and that's what these are all about. Here's a little spot from Violin for Mignon, measures 35 through 45, and I picked this example because there's B flats and E flats in it, and lots of naturals, no sharps in sight, and it could be confusing, and a lot of kids might play that section of the music out of tune. So once again, I'll have them fill out the fingerboard themselves with the notes in the music, and this is what it looks like between measures 35 and 45, and then once again I'll point to the notes so that they can play looking at the fingerboard chart. But what I wanted to show you is another way to look at this fingerboard. You can look along the strings this way, and you can look across the strings this way and make your comparisons. So what we have here is actually something pretty simple. The first finger ends up being in the same place on all strings. The second finger ends up being in the same place on all three strings. The third finger ends up being in the same place, and the pinky's a half step away. And it just helps to figure it out, map it out, get your fingers in the right place. So that's an example from Violin for Mignon, and you can just use this idea for pieces of music that you might need to demonstrate or figure out, and so on and so forth. On this last page, what I have is an E flat major scale. I don't know why I picked E flat, but there it is. And I think that I will go through and explain how I teach scales in general. My students will get blank pages, like the first one here that we talked about. And I will have them fill out the key. For example, C major has 0 sharps, 0 flats. G major has an F sharp in it, so they have to fill out the name of the key and what the key signature is up here. And then what they'll do, so let's look at our E flat major, for example, is we have our E flat major scale, we have B, E, and A flat, and then the students fill out all of the notes possible in first position in that key signature. So they'll have a page for each key, and we'll put it in a booklet so that they can refer to. What what I'd like to talk about next is how they use this with their scales. So the very first exercise is what we just talked about, which is filling out these pages. That would be our visual exercise. The second exercise that I have them do is a kinesthetic or muscle memory, whatever you want to call it, exercise. And what they have to do is look at the notes along the string. And once again, I didn't highlight this page, but you can highlight them like we did in the Fingerboard workbook, and they just pop right off. So you'll see that on the G string, in the key of E flat major, you have all whole steps. And so I'll have the students hold their hand up in that finger pattern. The next key, the next string has whole step, half step. And so they have to hold up their hand in this fashion. The A string is the same, and the E string has a half step in between the two middle fingers. So, if we're going to play a scale in E flat major, you have G string, D string, A string, E string, and then we're going to go backwards because you have to go down the scale too. E, A, D, G. So you go through and you do your finger patterns in the air, and you haven't even played the scale yet. The next thing you do is you play the scale looking at the fingerboard. So you have to look at whatever scale book you're using. Sometimes they'll start on E flat and just go from this E flat up to this E flat, which means you won't need to play the G string or the E string right now. So you'll figure out what your starting E flat is and your ending E flat, and you'll play looking here. So you'll play your scale looking here, and then come down. And then the last step is you would then turn to your music and play the scale reading the music. So all of my students go through all the key signatures in this fashion. Thank you for visiting myviolinrecital.com. Once again, I hope that this fingerboard geography session has helped to clarify how we make our way around a fingerboard that has no frets on it, and eventually we will be taking those tapes off, so you won't have those as references either. So if you have any questions or comments, feel free to email me, and you'll be able to find a lot of these materials available to download on my blog. So thanks for visiting, and as always, happy practicing.